Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Welcome back to a new video. Today's video is a continuation of two other videos I did. One recently where I talked about how to lower your car payments by refinancing amongst other ways. And if you need that help right now, watch that video. I give you all the sources, where to go without hurting your FICO score, without screwing up your credit, to find out how much you can immediately lower your payments to without any bang the FICO score or anything. Nothing bad will happen to you. So go watch that video, and I'll even put a link in the description so you don't have to go hunt for it. And then another one, which was, are you upside down on your Hellcat or Scat Pack? Neither of these videos went to any major acclaim. I mean, we're talking 5, 6, 7,000 views. I mean, okay, fair enough, but not anything that I would have hoped to be able to reach out to people that could be helped. But what it did do, these videos did do, is they filled up my inbox on Instagram. They both continue to fill up my inbox on Instagram. And what that tells me is that those videos are still getting pumped out to people who are wrestling with credit challenges right now because of really bad decisions, no judgment here, really bad decisions perpetuated by and supported by the shady dealerships that took these people who were fairly unsuspecting. I will use the word gullible in the most respectful possible way, because gullibility is curable, meaning after you get burned so many times you become jaded and then you don't let it happen to yourself again. So the good news is you've learned your lesson. Even though I was screaming this for several years now, do not pay markups, do not pay big prices for these cars. But people still did. Watch the video yesterday, the guy's proudly, just touting that all he paid was a $5,000 markup. And I wanted to just grab him by the shoulders and shake him and say, how was that okay? You don't make a lot of money. He's talking about not making a lot of money and how the payment was kind of choking him, yet he did this. Now, he could use an extra $5,000. Today, the same cars that this kid bought for $5,000 over are $3,000 to $5,000 under. That's how crazy it is. So, meaning the $5,000 over plus $5,000 below, we're talking about close to anywhere from a $7,000 to $10,000 or more $1,000 spread, and this person did alone. And likely the $5,000 was just his down payment, which went straight to the salesman, the GM, and that dealership. And he basically did 100% financing on that car, meaning that he is buried in that car. So many people are in that position that I'm getting hit with lots of requests on Instagram to engage in conversation, and these requests start with help. One of them recently started with help, and I wrote back, what's up? And I was waiting for him to say, look, I've got a bridge in Nigeria that you can invest in to get rich. Like, no, it was a real person. It's sad to hear this stuff. So why am I doing this video? Because I've dedicated my cop car to mental health and to help men. And generally it is men and women. If you're going through this, I'm here to help you too. But generally it's us men who were instilled with so much pride and morality that the idea of going down financially is so hard for us to grasp that sadly some men decide to take themselves out. And I don't want to kill this video by using the wrong words, but I think you all understand what I'm saying. And the unfortunate part of that is I've had to deal with this in my life through a couple recessions and watch otherwise good men who got caught up in tough situations financially take their own lives. And it was a temporary issue. It wasn't a permanent issue. They would have gotten through it. So I'm sharing this video because the sadness that I'm hearing in these messages is overwhelming. So I'm going to cover basically three things. I'm going to cover being upside down on your car and some options you have, all the way from the simplest solution to the full nuclear option. I'm going to talk about credit card debt, revolving debt, consumer debt. I'm going to talk about when you should file bankruptcy to escape this debt. And the first thing I want to say out of the gate is, if you are that self-righteous, pompous a-hole that is dying to jump in the comment section and say they deserve it, they're stupid, anybody would have bought one of these cars for a markup, or would have bought one of these cars, period, or used their credit cards and didn't do this, that, and the other thing, are idiots and they deserve what they get. I see those comments all the time. And you are an evil, nasty person. And the fact that you're perfect and the rest of us are all screwed up disgusts me, because you're the one that likely is most screwed up once we get underneath the surface and determine what your malfunction is. So save those comments. They will be completely deleted. You will be banned from the channel, because this isn't about judging other people who make mistakes, who get in trouble, who financially get eaten up by the system. And the system is absolutely, no matter what you believe, is absolutely designed to lock us all in to as much debt as it possibly can, to force us in to a perpetual life of desperation and fear. And I will tell you, there's massive profits in that. There's massive profits in playing to your morality and your pride. And I'll tell you, I'm willing to admit that in 2007 and 8, it wasn't about how much money I was making. I was making lots of money prior to that. I was making stupid money. My best year ever, I made just over $700,000. And this is, I'm talking in my early 30s in 1 year. So you can imagine my bad years were half of that. That was like a bad year. And I still went down in a gargantuan ball of fire because I thought it was going to last forever. And the reason I thought it was going to last forever is I hadn't spent more than 35 years on this planet Earth to have experienced such a catastrophic recession, or some called it a depression. And I had to learn that lesson. I had good parents, but parents who didn't fly as high as I flew, and had any advice to give me on how to manage that money. So it was too much too soon for somebody who was too young to be even slightly considered to be responsible with that money. But it was a lot of fun. Oh my God, it was a lot of fun. The bottle service in Vegas, the $5,000 bills, the Platinum American Express cards, $14,000 a month bill. I mean, you name it, it was fun. The cars, everything was great. And let this sink in. I spent a good portion of that single. Yes, it's a miracle I'm still alive. And then I met my beautiful wife, and we have been great since. But nonetheless, I took a beating. My tax guy got indicted. The IRS raided his shop. He was an old white-haired man wearing a cardigan sweater and the little bifocal glasses, who had been doing taxes for longer than I've been alive, who told me, this is how you need to do it. This is the smartest way. I've got over 1,000 clients that I do taxes this way, and it's brilliant. You're going to save a fortune. Until the IRS raided his building and audited all of us, and I got nailed with $300,000 plus in mounting tax bills. And yes, you can bankrupt that stuff. You absolutely can. It's just challenging. You need a great attorney, which I end up having. So yes, I went bankrupt, went down in flames, lost everything. I mean, it was horrible. It's just, long story. That video is on my channel too, where I tell the whole story. So if you're here to judge me or judge anybody I'm talking to, go bleep yourself and pack it up, because congratulations on being smarter than all of us. Now, I've learned these lessons based on experience, real life experience, real life mistakes, where I have taken the beating, I've lost everything. I literally had to take my pew-pews and give them to my friend, because I was worried about I was worried about myself, worried about what I would do to myself, because I was so hopeless in how I was going to unravel such a laundry list of bad decisions, compounded with the complete catastrophic crash of the American economy. Now, where we're at right now, we're in this little secret economy that nobody wants to talk about, that it's really bad for a lot of people. And here's why. A lot of people who made more money than they've ever made during the pandemic all of a sudden have to come back to earth. Kind of reminiscent of 2007 and 8. They got to come back to earth. The problem is those people weren't the people in real estate or mortgage who were flying really high, 6, 7, 800 million, $1 million a year. I'm talking about people who are used to making $20, $30 an hour, that because their companies got free money, because they got free money, because of certain aspects of business, things went to the moon, and they end up making more money. If they were on commission sales, they made a lot more money. If they were selling cars, they made more money. But now things are coming back to roost. Now they got to deal with the inflation, and they have to deal with the gigantic cut in pay. And these are the messages I'm getting. My pay got cut, everything's more expensive, my car payment's to the moon, my car is worth way less than I paid for it, I'm screwed. One guy, I bought a Tesla for $90,000, now it's worth like $40,000 because they dropped the prices. And let me give you a little heads up, when Tesla did that, they pushed all the used cars into not just dropping a little bit, but dropping a lot, because the financing on a new car is always going to be a much better interest rate and term, length and term, versus a used car, which helps just kill the values on used cars. Same with these Mopars, same with every car. The second it's used, second it has miles on it, they're not going to get the better financing, meaning in many cases it's cheaper to buy a brand new car than it is to buy a used car if you're financing it, because the interest rate's going to be less and the term's going to be much better on a new car. But buying a used car usually is a great way to save money, but in this last 3 years or so, not necessarily. So bottom line is, people have been burned. So I'm going to address these issues. Sorry for the big wind up, but I just wanted to get that out, that this is not about judging you or your pride or, trying to make you feel bad or calling you stupid. You learn from your mistakes and you improve, you get better, and you push through, and you don't take the easy way out, is what they call it. It's not easy for the rest of us that are left behind, but you don't do that. You push through and you declare war on your debt and you get out of it, and then you never get back into it again. Like me, I will never let this happen to me again. I will never put myself over my head. I'll always keep everything within reach, that I can unravel it in a matter of moments if I have to. I'm going to use the 0% interest credit cards, if I'm going to use credit cards at all, to try and mitigate these issues. I'm going to try really hard to make better decisions. And if I do get a certain amount of debt built up because we end up going to Mexico and have a great time and we run them up a little bit, it's going to be a small portion of our assets and our income. Meaning, if I want to, I can pull the trigger and unravel it. You got to keep that perspective, because it got out of whack in 2007 and 8. And for a lot of you, it got out of whack in this market, and it's really getting out of whack now. So if you're upside down on your car, you're buried in your car, go watch my video on how to drop your payments, because you need a car. If you don't have a car, it's hard to go to work. That's a challenge. So if you repo that car, you won't have another car, and you won't be able to get another car. But if you're upside down in your car to the point where you can't refinance it, you cannot sell it, then get on the phone now. If you are starting to get in a place to where you're going to get behind on other stuff, get on the phone with your lender now. Call them and tell them, I'm headed into a dark place. I'm financially screwed. It's only going to get worse before it gets better. I need a few months to get my income squared away, get some debts gone, and solve some of these problems. But I can't think straight because this payment keeps coming and I'm going to start ruining everything else in my life. So what can you do to help? They're likely to say nothing, but if they say we can cut your interest rate, we can give you 3 months skip payments, whatever it is, then there's an opportunity to take it and see if that will give you the breather to be able to get back on your feet. If they say they can do nothing, let me help you with this. If they say they can do nothing, they will put on record that you are starting to have challenges financially. This is good because it'll help if you were to start getting behind on your car payments, it will help you in negotiating later on, showing that you were trying to get help early. So now it's time for them to step up now. And maybe it takes you getting behind on a payment, 2 payments or 3 payments, before they step up and help you. Or if they decide to repo the car, it could create a situation where they evaluate all the notes on the file and decide whether or not to pursue you in court with a lawsuit for the deficiency balance on that car if you were to repo it. And that's important. So if you have a car that's worth, let's say, $50,000 and you owe $70,000 on it, and you're $20,000 upside down, and all the repo fees and costs and all that stuff that piles up in a huge way ends up leading to $25,000, and you've been telling them that you're in financial peril and headed towards possible bankruptcy, maybe they will send it to a different collection company and just harass you for the money versus try and sue you for the money, because a lawsuit's not any fun. And very rare do they do that, especially in economies like this where there's a lot more people defaulting. But you want to avoid that if you can, because then they'll just garnish your wages, and it just compounds things. The other thing you got to know is the second you start getting behind on that car, they're going to be calling you and trying to squeeze you for whatever they can get out of you. So you want to avoid falling for the sweet person on the other line making promises to you they can't keep. For example, let's say you're 3 months behind on the car, and they start telling you, "We'll just make one payment. We'll give you an extra, month or something." You make that one payment, and the tow truck pulls up tomorrow, and they act stupid. "We didn't realize the tow truck was already on order." Happens to people all the time. Make 2 payments, and we won't repo your car. Okay, and then you make those 2 payments. You skip meals for the next week and a half, and then the tow truck pulls up and gets your car. If, let's say, you do repo the car, they call you up and say, "Okay, you owe us $25,000 with all the repo fees, or $15,000, $10,000. We will not sue you if you pay us $500 a month for that debt. We won't sue you." Yet now you had an $800 or $900 car payment. Now you're going to have, and you had a car. So now you have no car, and you end up with a $500 car payment. Don't fall for that stuff. At that point, it's about negotiating that balance down. And I would say on a car loan deficiency balance, you're looking to try and get down to 10-20% of what that amount is in a settlement down the road. And whatever it is, if you agree to some payments, make sure those payments aren't any more than 3 to 6 months, and that debt goes away completely. And ask them to report it as paid as agreed and remove all negative items. No guarantee they'll do it. It's rare that they do, but when I was going through my crap, they did, and I had a lot of them do that stuff. This was way before bankruptcy, but I was able to get a lot of the stuff handled, a lot of the stuff settled, and a lot of the stuff off the credit until finally I just had to hit the reset button because of the tax stuff. Next, let's talk about credit card debt. Credit card debt's almost the same. You got to know that pretty much every credit card in the world will settle for easily 50%, but very often 10-20%, depending on how long you telegraphed your punch with that credit card company. Meaning, as they started calling you when you started to strategically default, or by sheer force you had a default on that credit card debt, they will start calling you, and you need to constantly tell them, "I'm not doing this for my health. I'm doing this because I have to. I'm doing this for my survival. I'm doing this to be able to feed my family. I'm doing this to be able to stop the insanity of the 29% interest that I'll never, ever, ever get to pay off. That'll have me in debt till I'm 92 years old. And I just can't do it anymore. I'm in trouble financially. I can't pay it. I've lost my job. I've taken a pay cut. I've repoed my car." Whatever it is, tell them all the horrible stuff that's going on in your life, and they'll write it all down. And maybe they don't do anything that day, but by the time you're 3-4 months behind on that credit card, they're likely to say, "Okay, we'll take 50%. But here's a little secret. If at the end of that 3, 4, 5 months and they send it to a collection company, depending on their contract with that collection company, there's a good chance that collection company only paid 10 cents on the dollar, even less, 5 cents on the dollar for all that debt, and now you could probably get out of it for 10, 20, 30% versus 50% prior. Yes, your credit's thrashed. Yes, you have a bunch of late payments, but at this point, you want to ask for, in exchange for you paying it, for a letter from the creditor, not the collection company. You want that too. The collection company and the creditor, that if you settle it, if you pay them off, if it's a $10,000 credit card and you pay them $2,500, that they will delete and they will remove all negative items from your credit. Back in the day, I had that happen probably, I'd say, every third time. So 30% of the time I was able to get that. The rest of the time it would just go as settled. Late payments would still show, and the late payments would slowly stop hurting my credit. And once it shows settled, the clock starts ticking on the 7 years for that thing to fall off. And every few months, it's just further behind you, and your credit starts to improve. Also, keep as much of your good credit as you possibly can. That way, you have compensating factors. So that happens, negotiate those balances. Go to Google, type in, let's say it's Bank of America. What does Bank of America settle for if you default on your credit card? And you'll see, I did it the other day in preparation for this video, like 50% out of the gate. But that means you could probably negotiate even less. Capital One, all these credit card companies, if you're in trouble right now, and let's say you're 27 years old and you've got $50,000 in credit card debt, and you realize you effed up, you blew it, you absolutely probably should make the decision to take a fall and to get out from underneath this stuff, because you will never ever unravel it, especially if you're at a regular job making 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 a year. That's not enough money to ever knock that credit card debt down enough for you to escape it. It will follow you for the rest of your life unless you take severe, serious action, declare war on those credit cards. And what I used to do is back in the day when I was going down, I took one of those manila folders and I wrote, Capital One across the front, American Express on another one, and Bank of America on another one, and whatever other credit card and loan on the other one. And then I would start a file on each one and just start deciding it's business, not personal. I got myself in this. I've got to get myself out of it. I've paid them enough interest to where they've received their principal twice on the items I bought. So now I'm not feeling bad about it. These credit card companies lobbied, and banks have lobbied the politicians to where there's no limit on these interest rates that they can charge. There was a time when there was some at least reasonable limits on interest rates. They got rid of those, but they also lobbied really hard to change the bankruptcy laws, which we'll talk about next. The bankruptcy laws have changed. They've changed many years ago, but there was a long time where you could be making a $200,000 a year and walk in and bankrupt everything, and you just destroy yourself and everybody you borrowed money from, but you were able to do it. Now there's a means test in pretty much every state and every county, a means test. It's based on your annual family household income, and if you exceed that, it becomes really hard to be able to do a bankruptcy. There are some loopholes for business debt, taxes, and things like that, but you've got to get a great attorney to be able to figure that out, or do your research to figure that out. But if you make more than the median household income to be able to qualify for a bankruptcy Chapter 7, then you're not going to qualify. And that's a challenge, which means you got to go ham on these credit card companies one at a time to take them down, settle the balances, and get through this. And they will. I promise you, they will settle. They will all settle with you. And look, if you find one that doesn't, then fine, I'm wrong. Tell me. But they've all, in my experience, will settle with you, and you will get to the other side of that. But if you are considering bankruptcy, you want to make sure you do the Chapter 7. You want to make sure you do the full absolution of that debt. You don't want to get trapped in, I think it might be a 13 or something. You don't want to get trapped in a reorganization of your debt. That's no better than, you might as well just negotiate your credit card companies individually, because you're just setting up one lump sum payment every single month for these credit card companies to get paid back over time, eliminating interest and stuff like that. But your bankruptcy ends up dragging out for years versus a few months on a Chapter 7, and then you get fully discharged. And let me just give you a little secret. You'll feel humiliated. You won't want anybody to know. You'll be super secretive about it. But many people that you talk to out there, they did it. They just don't want to tell you about it. When I showed up to court to knock mine out, I looked to my left, and there was a friend of mine that I knew from like 20 years ago, and he was in there, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm going bankrupt." I'm like, "Yeah, me too." He goes, "How much you going bankrupt for?" He goes, "Like 150,000. How much you going bankrupt for?" I'm like freaking $500,000. And he's like, "Holy moly." I said, "Yeah, man, I'm an idiot." But I learned my lesson, and we're going to start all over, because we had a little kid. We got to get our life back. And now I won't let that happen again. But you'll be shocked at how many other people have been through it. So you've got to strip your ego away and realize you are either taking a life sentence for the original mistake you made in getting into debt, and let's say it's a car, overpaying on the car, overpaying on your credit cards, and it's all a snowball. So you take too big of a car payment, you use too much cash to get that car, so you pay a markup. And then now you're living on your credit cards because you buried yourself in a car and you expect you're going to make more money. Then your pay gets cut, or you stop making bonuses like you used to, whatever it is, and now you're making less money with more bills, and the snowball starts to go. And here you are in the situation. It is what it is. It's not about you. You made a mistake. You thought everything was going to be okay. You thought you calculated it. Now you hit the reset button. And that is Chapter 7. And if you have to do it, you have to do it. You have to go get the attorney, and you need a file. I'm telling you, there are paralegals and there are free services out there. You just got to get on the internet and look them up. But I'll tell you this, and I'll wrap up with this. Literally, days after the discharge, it's about 2 or 3 months, days after the discharge of a bankruptcy, you will start getting every car company, every car lender in the world, every credit card company in the world wanting to give you money again. It's astonishing how fast, because they all want to be part of your recovery with someone who has freshly learned their lesson, who's likely not to get themselves in the same amount of trouble before, and who will not be able to bankrupt them for 7 or 10 more years. They will not be able to bankrupt them, so they've got you. So if you do get in debt with them, then you have to pay them. So they'll start loaning you money. The car companies will start loaning you money. I used to joke around, but it was true, that if I had a rental that needed a tenant in it, I would be totally cool with somebody who filed bankruptcy the last couple of years, because they can't do it for many, many years again, which means they can't trap themselves in the house and not pay me by just filing bankruptcy. They can't do it again. They have to pay me, or I can get them out. It's a wild way of thinking about it, but I also logically kind of think that if they've already gone through such a painful experience, they're likely not wanting to go through that painful experience again, and they've learned their lesson. So someone who's already been beat over the head, lost everything, is generally less likely to go out and do it to themselves again than someone who has yet to have gotten themselves in that trouble, and now I end up on the other end of someone in that learning experience and becoming part of their learning experience. So I don't mind renting to people who had bankruptcies, as long as it shows that they've worked hard to recover. So with that, everybody, I hope this helps somebody out there. This video may go nowhere, but this will save me from having to type a lot. I'm still going to respond to everybody, but I'm just going to send this video off and say, look, get down and dirty, get yourself out of trouble. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you're older and you're in this position, figure it out, get it solved, come up with a strategy, get your folders out, write a plan, and then go after it. And when it's all over, then go hire my gal Sandy at ScoreFlow, or anybody who's good at credit cleanup, and have them go ham on your credit report and get rid of as much stuff as they can get rid of. But that's not legal. I don't care. I hire these people and they take off the stuff that's not helping and that will go off. And if the creditor doesn't follow up with their response and it gets deleted from my credit, that's on them. I can ask the question. If they don't respond, then it's not going to be on my credit. And I went through all this already, got the FICO scores back. Now my wife and I are sitting on very strong FICO scores. I hired Sandy, a year ago, and my wife's sitting at like a 740 plus FICO score. It's phenomenal. And not that, she's out buying anything with it, but she's proud of being able to have that and cleaning up old junk that was on there. So with that, everybody, hopefully this helps somebody. Please like, subscribe, comment, share this video with anyone you think it could help. Make good decisions. Don't overpay on your cars. Don't pay markups. Don't buy more than you can afford. Keep things in perspective. Recognize that just because you're making great money today doesn't mean you'll always be making it, and life can change really quick on a dime, and then you could be behind the power curve. And in the end, never take the easy way out. Just declare war, get mad, muscle up, and go after these folks and fix the problem, solve the problem. Make every challenge in your life your bitch, okay, and beat it down and win. And don't let it mess up your head so much that you feel hopeless and make a horrible decision, because there are people in this world that love you and do not want to lose you. Take care, everybody. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.